our understanding of matter itself by probing quarks and gluons in the atom's nucleus with beams of electrons from the superconducting accelerator. Jefferson Lab has an educational mission as well. The Jefferson Lab Science Series features scientists and engineers who are gifted in making their work not only informative but fun. The Science Series is held once a month in the Jefferson Lab Auditorium. The presentation is live, spontaneous, and unrehearsed.
Our speaker today is Stephanie Barish. She is presently the art director for the Shoah Foundation, which is located at the Universal Studios in California. She grew up in Pasadena, and she attended fledgling preparatory school. She received her bachelor's degree in fine arts at University of California, Berkeley. She received 2 masters, a master's in fine art and a master's in computer science. While she was working on her master's degree in computer science, Steven Spielberg called up the dean of her school and asked for the best and the brightest. He had a new program he wanted to do, and that was the Shoah Foundation. He wanted somebody who was really good in graphic illustration and interactive computers. So Stephanie Barish's name was given. So she started working with Steven Spielberg before she finished her master's degree, and she's presently there now. It's my pleasure to introduce Stephanie Barish.
Thank you. Oh, this is kind of loud. It's okay. Thank you. I'm really happy. I'm excited to be here. I kind of have a cold, but I'm still excited to be here. I want to give you a little background on myself and how I got where I am, because I'm in the interactive media field, which is an entirely new field. It's starting, I'm one of the very first few people out there. When I was in school, the way that I became educated in this interactive media field was by my own going from one thing to another thing to another thing. So I want to kind of give you some background on me and then tell you a little bit about what is out there in the world to do, especially in Hollywood and in the interactive media, in computer animation. And then I'm going to show you a little bit of the project that I'm working on right now, the Shoah Foundation, which is kind of a little bit different than your average computer game. And I think it's really great. When I was talking with Teresa, I was telling her about my high school experience, and because she said that this was mostly a high school audience, and I was saying that, she asked me what high school I went to, and I said, I went to Flint Ridge Prep School, but there's really it's kind of a weird story, because we were the first year of girls at this school, and there were about 40 people in my class, and there were 7 girls. And we were absolutely encouraged not to take math classes, not to take science classes, not to take even art classes. We were basically brought in to be on the homecoming court for the football games. we were a very good football team. So despite all that, me and one of my friends managed to make it through physics and computer science and calculus and everything else. And we did not do as well as the guys in the class. We really weren't encouraged. But for some reason, we did okay. And it was, I think, very lucky. And thanks to some of the bonding between people, like my friends, because the guys in school were great. I went to UC Berkeley and studied fine arts. And then afterwards, I started to take film classes. And I thought, this is the thing, film, it's it. I want to make films. So I applied to USC for film school, because it's one of the top film schools in the country. They only accept 1 out of every 100 applications. I thought, this is great, this is really a challenge. I'm going to go to film school. So I got in, and I was completely shocked. In film school, in my class, there were, again, it was the ratio of male to female. There were about 35 guys in my class and 5 girls. And the women weren't encouraged to do anything. We were all encouraged to do kind of the same mainstream films. You know how when you go to the movies, there's like a formula? You know, you kind of know how the film's going to end, usually. And it's promoted. You know, everybody keeps doing the same thing. So that was kind of a drag. So I started to do animation. I was like, I'm tired of working with people. I'm gonna create my own characters. So I went up to the animation department, And I started doing hand drawing animation, and it was great. It was really exciting. I could make them move kind of badly, but I could still make them move. And then we got the shipment of Silicon Graphics computers in. And I sat there. From the minute that they got there, I just sat. And I learned it. I just sat and went through one thing after another thing, every tutorial. I didn't understand anything. And I started at the top level computer. I didn't know how to use a Mac. I'm still not good at Microsoft Word. But I sat down and I started using, at first I looked at the computer and I didn't even understand the concept of 3D. You know, I didn't understand how you could build something on a computer that had a front to it and a back. I didn't understand how you could like turn, you know, look all the way around. I mean, to me, it was just, you know, a computer. I didn't understand what it meant to build a wireframe, which is how everything is built, like a skeleton, and then attach a surface to it. I had no idea. I looked at it, it didn't make any sense at all. And then I just worked through it. I sat there and I worked through it, and I made it. I got a master's in computer-generated imagery, and I know how to do it now, and it's a tool. And I know how to use it for a variety of different things. And since then, I've kind of moved forward. Right when I got out of school, even though this is kind of a long story, the field is really, really wide open. I mean, it's a brand new field. Animation is hugely in demand. You know, when you have to make 101 Dalmatians out of 16 original dogs, there's a lot of people that need to work on it. Or when you need to do explosions for Independence Day that take months and months and months per explosion, or dinosaurs, or there's so much to do, you know, and it takes a really long time. So there's a huge demand, and it's very labor intensive. It takes a real long time to do any of it. There's a couple different applications for animation, computer-generated imagery. One is like effects, and what you see in Independence Day. Another is animation, like Toy Story or Jurassic Park. And then there's games, which everybody knows about, which is kind of a different thing. And then there's interactive media. And although they crisscross a lot, and more as technology is getting better, they're pretty distinct, and they're getting more and more specialized now. Even in the couple years that I've been out doing it, it's amazing. It's really changed. So my first job, while I was finishing school, I was finishing my thesis, I was doing about 1 million things. And I got a job on Braveheart doing special effects. And I thought that I had never seen a movie like this before. I saw the movie before they put the special effects in. And I thought that it was really, really wild. I liked it better than the movie at the end with the effects. They had this fight scene, and people had big, huge watermelons on their heads, and they'd come through clubs and smash them. Come through the clubs and smash them, and all the pieces of watermelon would go everywhere because it made the right sound. They had pumpkins filled with ground beef. They'd shove knives in them. They had. They use a lot of meat products. There's steaks, ground beef, spaghetti, and a lot of melons. And that was mostly it. So it was this big grocery store food fight thing. And what it ended up being when you work on it is you work day by day by day, fixing everything, turning that watermelon head into something that looks like a real head with blood, with brains exploding out of it instead of ground beef. And you start adding layers and layers and layers of images that's built on the computer on top of that. And you know, they splatter on the wall, and it's gross. Especially as you start building it and creating it, it really gets disturbing. So I spent a long time doing that, and it was kind of like nauseating, some of that work, but it was fun, and all my friends were doing stuff. One of my friends is creating sand blowing out of the computer that is just little pieces of, you know, pixels moving and animating sand, and one of my friends was doing working on making Batman fall out of the window because the Batman wasn't real. And everybody all around town, all my friends got these great jobs doing these really neat things. But then I got stuck doing painting a spot out of 5 minutes of a film. And it meant going in every day, all day, frame by frame. And I don't know if you guys know how film works, but there's 30 frames a second. So that's a lot of frames for 5 minutes. Going in and like making up colors for where the spot was, because somebody had like gotten a spot attached to the lens on the camera. And it was really, really, kind of upsetting to do because it was so tedious. But it was good. I mean, I enjoyed doing it. And it's, of course, the most expensive thing that you can possibly do to a film. Just recently in that, oh no, I forgot the name of the movie. No, not Species. The one with the Mel Gibson and the bad guys and the... No. Before that one. Braveheart, is that the one before? No, forget it. It was such a good story, though, because everybody in town was working on this film, and there was the bad guys in the film, and they named the bad guys Zantac or something, and it was the same name as some real company, and they didn't find out until a week before the film had to go out, and they had to go back into the film and scratch it out everywhere and write in a new name. I mean, all over, across the whole movie. It was incredible. So it's that kind of thing that digital technology can do, is you can go in and fix everything. You can change what you're seeing. You can change the reality of what you're seeing. And that's really neat in some ways, because you can make these wonderful effects, and you can turn spaghetti into brains, but you can also, create a whole different reality. So I moved from that onto Mortal Kombat. And that was something else altogether. That's where I learned about what's called motion capture animation. And this is the kind of animation they use for games, and they also use it for a lot of, like Toy Story was done this way, where you have lots and lots of animation. And they think it's a lot faster doing it this way and more realistic. And it kind of is. If anybody remembers the commercials on TV with the dancing credit cards, you know how they're waltzing, or the dancing cars, that was done this way too. And what they do is they attach these sensors to parts, joints in your body. They're optical sensors. And as you move, there's a computer program that tracks it in the computer. And you just apply it to your little computer-generated model, and it works. All of a sudden, your ninja's kicking proper ninja kicks because you had a ninja guy doing it. And it's really a great technique. It's not foolproof at all. When we were working on Mortal Kombat, there's all kinds of problems. There's all kinds of things that go wrong. We'd have like arms flying out of joints and flipping around everywhere, and hands going through people's bodies because the computer can't always calculate it. And you go in by hand and you fix everything by hand. So you reattach his arm, and so the rest of the animation is all working right, but you have his arm that you're reattaching frame by frame. So it's still extremely labor intensive, but it adds for a whole new level of animation and movement, so that things that are done now couldn't have been done before. Animation is tedious. It's frame by frame, and when it's done this way, you can really whip through it. So I went from that. I was working on that, and I had just finished everything up when this project at the Shoah Foundation, which I had been interning for, all of a sudden I got this really great opportunity to build a user interface. And I didn't even know what that was. I didn't know anything about what to do. I just jumped right in. And the Shoah Foundation is really totally different than all these games, all this other stuff, but it's applications of the exact same technology with a completely different content. And I have a little video clip that gives kind of a background, then I'm going to talk about the background of the project. Please.
In January of 1933, Adolf Hitler came to power in Germany, and so began one of the darkest chapters in modern history. By the time World War II broke out in 1939, mass killings of those the Nazis considered enemies of the state had begun. The special campaign was waged against the Jews. They were forced into ghettos, labor camps, and ultimately death camps. And when it was over, in 1945, 11 million human beings had been exterminated. 6 million were Jewish men, women, and children. 2/3 of the European Jewish population. This genocide is known as the Holocaust, or in Hebrew, the Shoah. While we were making the film Schindler's List in Poland, none of us could have predicted the impact it would have on everyone who saw it, but maybe we should have.
How did you survive? A year ago?
Every time Holocaust survivors visited the set and told us about their experiences, we were moved. We realized that each was unique, each was compelling, and each was an important piece of history. The vision to record as many survivor testimonies as possible, and the dream to make them accessible for education, evolved from Steven Spielberg's experiences on making Schindler's List.
There is a saying in English, if you rescue one soul, you rescue the world. You understand? The whole world. And this is mine.
And so, the survivors of the Shoah Visual History Foundation was born to record and preserve tens of thousands of Holocaust survivor testimonies for future generations. For the first time in history, we'll be able to navigate through thousands of hours of eyewitness accounts. Groundbreaking computer technology will enable people of all ages around the world to interact with the past like never before.
When you are in a new country, you gotta learn the language first.
Because most Holocaust survivors are in their 70s and 80s, the foundation is in a race against time. A dedicated team of historians, filmmakers, educators, archivists, and computer technologists have come together to realize this ambitious goal. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's start at the beginning, in the Foundation's Department of Research and Training.
So that's a little bit different than everything I've been talking about. It's certainly different than where I came from, and it was really compelling to be invited to be a part of this project. It was really a wonderful, wonderful project. The same producers, it's the same producers from Jurassic Park and from Schindler's List got together and decided that they wanted to use the technology that was created in Jurassic Park and apply it to the experiences they had working with Schindler's List. This is a completely revolutionary way that's going to affect all of our lives, especially lives in school, because what we're doing is we're creating a way that instead of going to a library and reading a book and trying to get your primary information from some journal or something like that, you'll actually be able to go to a computer and dig up an archive of somebody talking about something, somebody who experienced it. And that's a different way of getting firsthand primary information. And it's really remarkable and exciting to work on. All the technology that we're working with, the survivor testimony that you saw up there is the most state-of-the-art technology. We're beyond what they're talking about doing with DVD, which is the digital video disc format. We're moving beyond all of that. This is the most technically advanced project, certainly in Hollywood. It's really wide scale. What we're doing is collecting testimonies from as many survivors of the Holocaust as we can around the world. We're doing it, and we have so far collected people in 35 different countries. We've done 25 different languages, including sign language. And then we're taking the testimonies and going through and coming up with a process for attaching video and text together, which is something that's kind of difficult to do. If you think about it, I mean, you watch a video or you type something in, but what if you want some kind of information? What if you want to retrieve a piece of video? And that's what we're trying to make available. then we're videotaping the survivors, we're digitizing them. We have these huge robots that house the survivor testimonies. It's amazing. And then we're making them available on wide area networks across the country and actually across the continent into Europe. And where you can sit in a university and access our robot in Hollywood and the Universal Studios lot right next door to the sliders and get these testimonies in your, in your university. So we're really excited about that. But one of the things that I've learned is that all of a sudden I'm in this world of interactive media. And this is a whole new world. It's a whole new way to put things together. And it's really interesting. All of a sudden, all the production experience that I got in film school, where I learned how to, like you guys, set up a camera, set up sound, do all that stuff, is really paying off because I can go in and understand how to edit things and how to create them. Multimedia and interactive really is multimedia and interactive, and it's about knowing a lot of different things and putting everything you know to use. I also am able to use all my computers, creating a video, movie, a computer program, and a book all at once. It's doing all these three things, and it's really complicated to keep it balanced. But it's really exciting when you see it all put together. It's hard to keep track of all the little pieces, though. If you go to the next piece of tape, this is the first stage of the product that we're doing for the foundation, and Stephen's doing a demo of this project that I designed.
Backbone of the archive will be the online access. Computers such as these will be housed in museums, universities, and Holocaust organizations throughout the world, providing access to the entire archive of testimonies.
This is what we call technically the user interface, but in a way this is what makes this technology, perhaps for the first time, emotional.
What is the faces?
What we're going to see is a life.
Yes.
And fortunately, in the case of survivors of the Shoah, these were lives that were spared in the Holocaust and lived to tell us about what happened to them. After they could give testimony, 2 to 5 hours of testimony, they bring their families into their homes, and we photograph their families and all the generations that exist today because of their existence. And to really show that, indeed, if you save one life, you do save a world.
And the vacuum that exists because of those that perished.
And all those that perished, who could have survived to have found the cure for cancer, the cure for AIDS? You throw away science, you throw away medicine, you throw away the future. And we're trying to recover some of that, and we're trying to make people learn about why this must never, and even in microcosm, ever happen again. So we move through this this world of faces yesterday, today, and tomorrow. So what we have here is all the names of all the survivors. There will eventually be, in the first 3 years, 50,000 testimonies rescued from the 300,000 survivors that still exist today. But in 10 years' time, there will not be that many survivors. So it's a race against time to get as many survivors to testify on videotape as possible. So with every name, you'll see a picture and a small little summary of who they are. So I can type in the name, Henry Rossmarin.
People who teach, human kids, when I was over, I put them host 19 and a half in there.
And what it essentially is Henry has just given 2 to 5 hours of testimony about what happened to him in the Holocaust. Before the Holocaust, what was his life like? What was the life like during it? Who did he lose? Who survived?
You put 5 and a half years back and bigger into your life and try to catch up.
Let's talk about his wife. Jada talks about their meeting. Tap on that, I can press play.
Then I was thinking about him in concentration camp, but I didn't know nothing. They would ever be together, but the fate done and we're together.
He plays the harmonica, which is why he survived. This saved his life. When the survivors are speaking, almost like a online living documentary, automatically maps and pictures of themselves and actual photographs, documentary movies of the ghettos they were in, the forced labor camps they were in, will automatically be triggered by what they're saying, and at appropriate moments will scroll on. So you're looking at almost a living document you are watching a living document of one's experience in the Holocaust. I really feel that this needs to be taught in schools. I think the lessons of tolerance and the subject of racial hatred, which encompasses the Holocaust as well as black slavery, what our country did to the Native Americans, these are all stories that really are about hatred and intolerance in various forms. And I thought that my next duty and pleasure was to find a way to take all the survivors who would come to me and said, please tell my story, not just so much cast another actor to play them, but let them be themselves and find a way to document their truth. And then how can we share those experiences with everybody who either wants to learn about them voluntarily or through the school systems in this country and around the world must learn about what happened to them.
You know, it's a life. You know, you can see someone just talking about their experiences and what they've been through. It's like it impacts you even more than a book would.
This doesn't just affect one group of people, it affects everybody, we as human beings. And all over the world, not just Americans, not just Europeans, not just Africans, Asians. But, you know, we're all in this together.
We take life for granted, and they went through so much, and they appreciate life, and some of us who have everything in life aren't able to appreciate it, and it's, I don't know, it just made me value life more.
Schindler's List was just a little stone which started a big avalanche, which is called Shoah, Testimonies of the Shoah. And I'm definitely sure nobody can stop it anymore.
People have to learn that there's no difference between other people. Whether it's their color, whether it's their religion, it doesn't matter. We're all the same. And we're all basically here for the same purpose, the same reason. And that's to live, let live, and enjoy life. And it's so easy to fall into this cataclysmic chasm of hate. And I think education is the cure.
As we pass into the 21st century, the world, particularly Europe, will inherit an undigestible piece of history, Shoah, which cannot be understood, may not be forgiven, and must not be forgotten. The only gift to the spirits of the dead and the remaining survivors is to say in all grief and in all anger, this did happen.
So I feel like this is a really neat project that I'm really happy to be a part of. And part of the reason I showed some of those people, the last two men on that tape are the executive producers and producers of Jurassic Park. The first Jurassic Park 1 and now again Jurassic Park number 2. And they basically volunteer their time to this project. And Steven Spielberg set up us creating that interface and then as an access to the testimonies, and then that whole scene where there's a bunch of people he brought in from high schools to try it and to see what their reaction would be. And he really cared about it, and he wanted to get that on film and to move forward with it. And it was really an incredible experience to be a part of. And I'm really, you know, like I said, I'm proud of it. From there, that first interface that you saw, where they keep cutting back and forth to, that was an incredibly difficult thing to design. It was difficult to keep track of all those parts. As you saw, there was like archival footage, there's survivor video. And by the way, that survivor that they showed, Henry, he saved his life in the camps playing the harmonica. He played it for the guards, and they thought it was so great that they kept him alive. I mean, there's amazing stories like that. Anyway, so beyond that, this is the first version. It's going to go up into museums starting in the fall, next fall. And we're also creating new things on supercomputers. We keep using the technology. We're creating three-dimensional maps that you can fly through and land on countries and find information about, that you can hear about survivor testimonies from there. And this kind of technology is completely usable and reusable in different ways. As Stephen talks about, they're already setting up something for people that were in the Japanese internment camps. there's a movement for indigenous peoples to be working on creating something like this. This archive is like setting up a foundation and the technology for setting up a framework for a whole new way of learning about things. So it's amazing that you take the technology that's used in Braveheart and Jurassic Park and use it here, but that's been kind of the path. So from here, I'm actually going to start working at Sega GameWorks, which is a completely different kind of place, working on Virtual Fighter 2. And the new version, they need some more women characters in there. They only have 2, and they're not very good. And they use, again, the motion capture animation. They keep it really true. They really care. The Japanese really care about their product being authentic. So now they're going to begin setting up stuff on the web, and I'm sure you guys are really, or some of you are really into being on the web. They're creating multiple user games and setting up kind of internet cafe areas where you can go in and play against each other, each taking on a persona of these fighting warriors. So that's like the next phase of what's happening, and it's really exciting. But I wanted to come, and I have a lot of information about animation, about what it's like as a field, about interactive, about games, and I would really like to answer anybody's questions, because I know a lot about it, and it's such a broad thing, and I'd love to be able to help anybody.
Okay, we're going to open it up for questions. Anybody have any questions?
I guess it was clear.
Right here.
The project that you were doing with the Holocaust, is that going to be accessible from the internet?
It's not going to be accessible from the internet right now because people are worried about security, and as you know, on the internet there's a lot of discussions about security, and it's not very secure. So these are people, real people that are living, and it's really their stories, and it's just not secure right now.
Right here. Yes, sir.
One of the things you really did were art-based.
Art. Creative direction, art. I started by doing a lot of artwork, and since then I've moved and I've grown with it. I learned how to use the computers as a tool for my art, but I've also learned how to work with other people and create. Interactive is really a team effort. Animation's a team effort in a different way, but all this stuff, filmmaking, they're just a team effort, and I've learned how to, move a little bit past just the artwork.
Okay, right here, and I'm going to repeat the question.
Yes, do you work hand in hand with like the Smithsonian Holocaust Museum?
Do you work hand in hand with Smithsonian and Holocaust Museum?
Well, we work with the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C., and there's also a Museum of Tolerance in Los Angeles. There's a new museum going up in New York we're working with. So yeah, we do. They're pretty neat. They're pretty amazing. As for the Smithsonian, we're doing something with them, animating the gems. So that's like the next thing.
Are there colleges and universities on the East Coast that could get degrees in this kind of stuff?
Are there colleges or universities on the East Coast that you can get degrees with this?
And undergraduate or graduate? Mostly in New York. I heard that there was one down here. I'm sorry, I don't feel very prepared on that question. Right now, the major colleges, there's one in Missouri. So you could head over there. Computer animation is a pretty new field. There's about 4 or 5 programs, but more and more schools are getting them, and actually they're getting them in the Midwest now that I'm thinking about it. Also, the University of Iowa has a very big computer, like a supercomputing center, and for some reason there's just been a lot of money to pay for the computers in the Midwest. Oh, okay.
Okay, anybody else? Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Sorry. You were behind the camera. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, she asked what kind of interface and what kind of graphic computer I used to create this interface. And what I use right now is I work on silicon graphics computers, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with those, but I work with Softimage, which is a three-dimensional package. I work with Alias, and I work a lot in Photoshop, which is on the Mac. We do a lot of things in Photoshop, which like anybody can get for $200. And does that answer your question? Do you know what they are?
When you came in as an art major to a computer engineering department at USC, were they somewhat hostile, or how did they approach dealing with a non-hard sciences type in their midst?
They loved it because they did. Well, first of all, there was a girl in the class, but then they really did like it. A lot of computer programmers really want to create this stuff, and they want to make, like one guy I know made this explosion, and one guy made this algorithm for fire, and it took him, 30 minutes, sorry, it took him like 3.5 years to create this fire, this path of fire. They want somebody there that's got a creative vision that can help them figure out how to make something look good, or to make it, something that people want to look at. So it's like I was saying to the first question, it's a creative synergy. It's the technical and the art meeting, and that's what's really crucial.
Any more questions? Anybody new before I go back to the ones that are already asked? Okay. Yes, sir?
Yeah, I have basically a comment. I can understand how it can take a long time. At Lafayette High School, we have a computer animation lab, and we do some basic graphics and animation. And currently, I'm working on a project. I'm making a cafe, a coffee shop, so to speak. And I'm making my own student portfolio. And I'm putting my work up on the walls of this cafe, and I'm trying to make it so that it's virtual reality, but I can't do that right now. But what I would like to do is have it so that you can click on the image and have that zoom in on you so that you could look at it later on. And it takes a long time. Yeah, it takes, I've been working on it for like 2 months right now on this, just the cafe itself.
And you're building that 3D?
Yeah, in 3D.
It's really labor intensive. It's the kind of work that doesn't just happen instantly. But that's the difference between having, when I worked on this interface, I worked through the night. I did. I worked through the night, every night for months. I didn't have any friends. I just worked on this. It's also kind of addictive. I started learning VRML and I was completely addicted. And all my stuff kind of looked kind of stupid and square, but I was still completely addicted. I did it like every day.
Yes, go ahead.
What other majors would be best, like in college, to go into that field?
What majors would be best for going into that field? I think you can do it with almost any major. I really do. I mean, it's really helpful to have some kind of technical background, but having a technical background doesn't necessarily mean that you need to be formally trained as a computer programmer, but it's really useful to take computer classes and understand how computers work, because that's the thing. You can use anything as a tool if you understand how it works. And so I highly recommend taking computer classes to understand how they work. Taking art and design classes, they're so useful for your whole life. When you go to apply for a job, it's very helpful to have a nice looking resume, just down to that level. It's really useful. And then taking, if you're in college, take really interesting classes, because who knows what's going to interest you. That's the most important thing. I mean, I wouldn't have stayed up all night working on these projects if they didn't really interest me. Computer animation itself is fascinating. It may not seem like it's creative, but there's so many, because somebody's telling you to make something look a certain way, but it is extremely creative. There's so many different ways to solve a problem and to make something, and it's up to you to figure out how to do it. And there's no, set way to do anything. You get to figure it out, and it's really exciting and really challenging.
I have a question. Are there very many entrepreneurial opportunities in this? Are your employers necessarily looking for a 4-year or a master's in computer animation to get started?
No. No. Oh, I'm sorry. He asked if people were looking for people that had a master's in computer animation. No, it's extremely new to be able to even get a master's in computer animation. They love people with backgrounds in computers in any way, and they love people with backgrounds in computers and art. I mean, all you have to do is say that and you're a shoo-in. But although it's starting to weed out, you have to be good too, obviously, and work hard. But no, they're not necessarily looking for a higher degree. They're looking for people that are into it. Does anybody else have a question? Oh, sure.
What do you expect you'll be doing in 10 years?
Oh my God, that's such a question. I have no idea. I don't know what I know what I'm going to be doing in 2 months, but beyond that, I'm not even exactly sure. I'd like to continue moving on as interactive moves on. I mean, I'm already, I'm moving into the world of avatars right now as we speak. So to me, I see the next phase of where everything is going, because I've been working on CD-ROMs and stuff that's kind of contained, and I'm going to kind of skip over DVD. I'm going online next. And I think that it's going to be a while. I know that the technology is not there. They're really trying to do some really interesting things. I have a lot of friends that are working at Disney right now, at Disney Online, and they're trying to create kind of this subscription online gaming, multiple user gaming, world. But the technology is not there for you to actually be able to do the things they want you to do. So it's a couple years down the road, but I do think that everything's going to be accessed and accessible that way eventually. So, yes, sir.
Is that a Captain American shirt you have on?
It's Virus Man. I have a cold. I had to wear my Virus Man shirt.
Yep, in the back.
I love comic books. I know all of them. Does somebody, Red.
Do you limit yourself to living in certain parts of the country if you decide to pursue this as a career?
Honestly?
West Coast, Disney, and Florida?
She's asking if you limit yourself because of this kind of career to which side of the country you're going to be on, or any part of the country. There's stuff, I'll tell you exactly where you can be. And this is right now. I mean, as things go online, they say, oh, it'll go everywhere. I'm not sure about that at all. I actually don't think so. Right now, you can be in New York if you want to work on commercials. You can be in Atlanta if you want to work for Turner. You can be in Los Angeles if you want to work on any special effects or animation or interactive. And you can be in Seattle and a little bit in San Francisco. But San Francisco has a pretty big interactive community, but they haven't kept up the pace with technology. And that's something that's really crucial, is to keep staying on top of technology. Technology is constantly a tool for the content that you want to do, but you have to stay up with technology. San Francisco is kind of falling apart because they stuck to CD-ROMs a little too long, and their technology hasn't moved forward yet. So that's what I would recommend. I think you had a question.
Is it a good paying job?
Is it a good paying job? Some of the jobs are very, very good paying. Anything in the movie business is good paying. Anything with where you're skilled at computers and is very well paying. The project I'm working at right now is not well paying because it's a nonprofit, but all my game stuff and everything, they have a lot of money, and they put a lot of money into it. So if you're good, they will pay you for it.
Do you have to do things in different languages?
Do I have to do,
French, German,
for the foundation?
or anything?
Do I have to do things in different languages? No. Thank God I don't know any other languages. The foundation itself does, and that's kind of been a problem with the technology again, where apparently when you type in French, the computer program can't handle it, you know, so they have to reprogram everything. Yeah. Exactly. So that's kind of another problem. Like things like that that you...
Language, do you have to program anything, or you just use software canned programs?
You know what? I work with programmers, and I've learned a lot of programming. In fact, I started off learning C++, so I could really understand when I ask people to do something, or so I understand what's technically possible. For example, on that interface, which looks really simple, you know, it's just, you know, dishes, it looks just 2D and all this stuff. It was extremely complicated to program. We have dissolves on the front, and the programming for those and scrolling, the programming for all that took months to do, and it's something that the computer was really difficult for the computer to handle. And now we're working on an $800,000 computer, so we're in better shape. But I've learned to get around and like read rather than write code. And I also use a lot of Java because it's really easy and has a lot of animation, and you can plug it in and use it on the internet. So if I don't know, I'm very pro Java if anybody's a programmer. Everybody's really going or interested. Everybody's really moving that way.
Okay, we're going to take one last question. Right there.
Is there a lot of competition for jobs like yours?
Yeah. Is there a lot of competition? Yeah, there is a lot of competition, but there's also a lot of jobs. There really are. There's a lot of jobs that are really different and really creative. I'm really lucky because my job is really creative and it's open, but there are a lot of other jobs. There's tons of jobs. You know, if you know what you want, you'll get it.
Well, thank you, Stephanie. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Your surveys, if you could turn them in to either myself or Debbie Burdett who's outside, you appreciate your comments, so please make comments on that. Thank you.
Play you up there.